Cutter Boley may have been impressing in practices, but Mikey Keene, he's the guy scoring touchdowns in the actual scrimmage. Here's all that all shakes out.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We had a scrimmage on Saturday, and we got opinions. We got thoughts. Also, it looks like A&M might be pulling out of the home section of our home and home. At least that's based on the fact that we're adding Akron. We're going to talk about that. But we got to start here, Parker, with the fact that finally we are seeing bright spots on both sides of the ball. Offense, big explosive plays. Defense, pressure and takeaways. It's starting to feel, maybe, I want to hear what you have to say about this, that our team is looking good as a team, not just like individual offense or defensive sides of the ball right now.
It's starting to look like this team is getting some traction, and we've always talked about how this is the part of practice and the part of camp where you start to see the coaching staff feel a little more at ease. Obviously, they're still putting pressure. I mean, it was a couple practices ago where Kenny Dillingham was like, "That's the worst offensive practice we've had all year." And when it comes to this team specifically, it seems like they've really answered the bell. All the challenges that they've got from not only Coach Dillingham, but their position room coaches and their coordinators offensively and defensively, they've challenged them to be physical. They've challenged them to be violent. Anything you can imagine, Phil, they have been challenged by their coaches, and they've answered. Every position group so far has had their answers, whether it's A.J. Ia in the tight end room, answering some challenges with Clayton Smith going in, or the running back room finally finding some answers and finding some guys who are stepping up. And on the defensive side of the ball, the pass rush and forcing turnovers, they've had some positive signs as well.
Yeah, it was kind of funny though. Kenny was like, we only had one takeaway yesterday. He was also upset that I think there were 2 takeaways at the Camp T scrimmage. He was like, that's not enough either, which is funny, Parker, because you and I, we're sitting here and we're not incredibly worried about the defense's ability to generate turnovers. I mean, Daquan Dunn has been the villain in Mikey Keene's story over the last couple weeks. Josiah McGrew, the same thing for Cutter Boley. Like we've seen the takeaways, and there was a beautiful one from Josiah McGrew on Saturday. But by that same metric, I mean, our big worry here is that our offense is going to turn the ball away too much, based on Cutter Boley's history, based on all we're seeing. So I see only one takeaway, despite the offensive line getting a lot of pressure. Cutter Boley sacked a couple times. And I say, awesome. Only one turnover. Fantastic. I'm a little worried that our starting quarterback is the guy that cannot manufacture touchdowns. But other than that, I mean, the fact that even in the face of pressure, we're only turning the ball over once. Yeah, that's a bright spot for me. So it is interesting to me, Parker, that the coaches apparently don't feel the same way. Kenny Dillingham is like, yeah, no, we're not getting enough of this. We need more turnovers. In the context of what the personnel is, that does surprise me a little bit.
But I think part of it is, Phil, that they're just challenging this group because they know how great they are, and they know how, on paper, they can be one of the most dangerous groups in all of college football, at least from the defensive side of the ball. And all this to say, Phil, I feel so confident in this defensive group when it comes to forcing turnovers because we've seen them elevate themselves when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, whether this shows more about ASU's ability to force pressure or ASU's offensive line being a little sketchy, we'll only come to see that as we get deeper and deeper into practice. But the main thing I was seeing is Thompson and Petrie, those were 2 guys that were getting to the quarterback consistently in the scrimmage. They were getting past the tight ends and tackles on the outside, and they were causing havoc. If they weren't getting sacks, which each of them had a sack from what I was seeing, they were getting QB pressures, and they were blowing up plays and letting the offense just kind of having to work in panic mode.
Yeah, that has been a problem, and that will continue to be a problem. It turns out, it turns out that moving Luke Baklenko over to left tackle, because apparently Champ Westbrook's also is like, there was some undisclosed injury there that he's working back from. Is the kind of implication based on how the coach has been talking. He's like not 100%. But moving Baklenko over to left tackle is not the end-all, be-all. It is not the solution. Right now, you don't move Baklenko over to LT, and all of a sudden, there are no more problems. The pressure is still there. Now, this might be that a bunch of guys who have not been starters before, I mean, Murray and Winston is, but Roman Petrie was a depth guy, a too deep type of guy. They've just made big moves. They've improved a lot, and they're going to go and get 6 sacks apiece this year, and it's all fine. Maybe. And I hope that is the case. But again, that is a worry to me that we're in the situation where we have a guy in a new system, Gutterbowley, who already has turnover issues, who, I mean, in general, Kenny Dillingham's offense requires some level of mobility from your quarterback. This is not some pro style offense where you're just going to sit in the pocket and make your reads and sling the ball downfield. This is an offense where you're expected to go make the RPO read or peel out and make plays with your legs, make plays with your arm, and be a balanced quarterback. And if specifically the left tackle is falling apart, as I saw someone was talking about, if our offensive line are a bunch of matadors and just letting the ball through, that's going to be a problem. And that is probably, I have not seen much I know we talked about the tight end practice the other day about how bad that was. And yes, the offense in some way has responded in the no pads practice and this practice in terms of like big explosive plays. The one thing I've not seen, as you allude to, is the fact that we are not blocking the pass rush. It's just not happening.
And
yeah.
And we'll only come to see how that progresses as the season rolls along. But to look at it from a different side, we talk about the concerns with it from being a two-way perspective from the quarterback position. How much time can they buy both inside and outside of the pocket? How does this help the run game? The offensive line, so far, what I've seen is the pass rush has been the big concern. The offensive line, they've done a good job of helping out the running game and ensuring that the run blocks are on their P's and Q's, and the running back room, they've had a lot of success. I know we're going to round out this show by talking about Grayson Rigdon, who is continuing to rise up the ranks in the running back room. But overall, Phil, this running back room, they found a lot of success in not only going from north to south, but east and west. Just really overall, this running back room, you have a bunch of guys that can do so many different things. You have guys that can not only be third down backs, not only can catch the pass in the backfield, but you have guys that can really just be bruisers, can really just, if you need 2 yards, they can lower the boom and fight for an extra couple feet.
I mean, in fairness, they're two sides of the same coin, Parker, because the reason we're worried about the pass rush is not the guards in the center, right? They're doing fine. By the same metric, we're not worried about the run blocking because we have our guards in our center doing a great job of establishing the A gap. All right, there was a great run from Kyson Brown early on in the scrimmage where he goes, between the guard, left or right, I'm not sure, but goes between one of the guards in the center, goes for 9 into heavy contact, which is exactly what we want to see. And that was something we did not have last year, despite how many average yards per carry Raleek Brown had, which is, by the way, like number 2 in the 2000s. It was all from bouncing off the edge, and it didn't matter once we got within the 20, within the red zone. But this year, at the very least, it does seem like our interior defensive line is doing a great job with the run block. That's not surprising, right? We've been seeing that happen. It's good to see the running backs finally taking advantage of it. But that doesn't have a lot of bearing with the fact that someone comes in, is blasting off the edge, and a tight end isn't picking them up. All right, these two things, Parker, can both be true. Our run blocking is solid, is set up for it. Marquise Gillis, Kyson Brown, everyone else, David Abbott, Cardi Mack, look great. But our tight ends and our tackles are not doing, at the specifically left tackle position, is not doing the job that it needs to do, and that both can be true.
Both can be true, and as we've talked about and as we've continued to say, we'll only find out these answers as the season rolls along, as we actually get to the season. They haven't played an actual snap of football, but I love these scrimmages, Phil, because you're able to find out what this team is made of, and what we are finding out, Phil, is that the defense is just really ruthless. That is the highlight side of the ball, which, to be fair, this defense, they had a lot of question marks going into this fall camp just because you knew the headliners, you knew the guys that were coming in, Owen Long, you knew Josiah McGrew, those were the big names. But the offensive side of the ball, they had the key transfers. They had Cutter Boley, Amari Miller, Reed Harris, Kyson Brown was going to be full healthy. But still, Phil, it is the defensive side of the ball that has continued to just have all the answers, have all the flash, and it's looking like they're going to be the main factor in this ASU team.
Yeah, top 3 defense in the Big 12. I think that is a very real expectation, despite the fact that it was only Josiah McGrew that had a takeaway yesterday. We're going to see a lot more of that. However, as exciting as it is to talk about what happened in the scrimmage, and we'll revisit that later on in the show, we got some big news over the weekend. We're adding Akron next year as a week 0 game, which would make us 4 out-of-conference games. And the only thing I can think of is that means that A&M is pulling out of their side of the home and home. Look, running a business is chaos. You got a bunch of different systems that should work together. They don't work together. They were never designed to work together. You know, accounting, inventory, sales, it's just awful. And that's where Odoo comes in. They're an all-in-one business management software that is going to bring every part of the business together in one powerful platform. Sales, accounting, marketing, everything all together working in one place. So you can spend more time building your business, and your employees can spend more time building your business and doing the business things instead of each person having to be their own like personal IT management software. And that's true in sports, by the way, that everything works together to form something awesome, just like it is in business. I mean, think about the Peach Bowl a couple years ago. ASU was down, coaches come together at halftime. Everyone contributes, everyone works together towards the same goal, and we functionally win. We should have won that game. But great comebacks happen because great organizations win when operations are excellent, when they matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That is odoo.com/lockedon.
Phil?
Yeah.
Just want to let you know, I have a friend who goes there. It's Akron, just to let you know.
So we got news yesterday or the day before that Akron is being added in as a week 0 game. Arizona State in 2027 has UNLV, A&M, Akron, Cal Poly. One of those games is going to get canceled because we play a 12-game schedule. We play 9 in-conference games. You cannot play 4 non-con. My fear is that this is just the groundwork, Parker, of A&M saying, yeah, great, you're welcome to come to us. We're not going out to Tempe. Why would we do such a crazy thing? Oh, man.
It is very interesting to see it at this time. I will say that we have seen previously some teams have a week 0 match, have that extra game because they have Hawaii in their schedule. There's some weird rules in the NCAA that you're granted an extra game, especially that week 0 game, in order to make up for travel. But I'm not seeing Hawaii on the schedule.
No, that's this year, Parker. We play Hawaii comes to us like week 5, 4.
Yeah, and we don't travel over there. So originally I was thinking, is there some home and home that I wasn't on my radar with Hawaii, but we don't play them in 2027. So it's very interesting to see that it's announced at this time, especially with all the rumblings that we've seen over the past couple months of the SEC continuing to back out of these deals. Texas, Florida, LSU just recently, and now Texas A&M maybe. But either way, with all these concerns, you have to wonder, which one is it? Is it Akron, Cal Poly, Texas A&M, UNLV maybe? I personally hope that it's not Texas A&M or UNLV. I'm hoping that it's Cal Poly, but the odds of Cal Poly backing out is really slim.
Yeah, slim to none. And look, Parker, it would be one thing if this was the LSU. I hate the LSU situation. We spent an entire episode talking about why the LSU situation was awful. I would, it's like if it's the A&M situation, it's Texas, it's whatever, and it's like, well, okay, we haven't played the game. Right, it's a home and home, but none of them are getting played. I hate it. I wish we were playing them. I wish we had forced LSU to pay us for backing out. And I guess technically we'd already played our home version of that home and home back in 20 years ago, but yeah, that's a different story. It would be another thing for us to go out to A&M to play the game, win or lose. Now, I hope we win to put extra egg on their face, but to go out there to play, and then A&M the next year says, yeah, actually, thanks for coming out. Thanks for improving our strength of schedule last year and giving us a really good early test. Yeah, we're not doing the same thing. Tempe's hot. We're better than that. We're better than you. We are superior because that's what this is. They're saying, yeah, we can back out of our deals. Our deals don't matter. And my only hope is if that's the case, Parker, because at a certain point, if they say we're not going to play, you can't make them play necessarily. I just hope that we don't do what we did with LSU, and if they do decide to pull out, we just rake them over the coals for whatever cancellation penalties in that contract.
Okay, Phil, here's my fear, and here's me let's get the asterisk out of the way. This is a complete, just utter theory right now, Phil. What I've seen in college football over these past couple years is the going away from home and homes, and we've seen a lot more, especially in the SEC. We can see it this year with Ole Miss and Louisville not playing in home and home, and a lot more teams have been having what typically have been scheduled as home and homes as games that are decided in neutral sites. They are neutral site scheduled games. And we've seen this happen. I believe it was LSU in Florida a couple years back in the Jaden Daniels era. Was it originally supposed to be in home and home? Got flipped to being played in Orlando and then being played in LSU. I have a sneaking suspicion that Texas A&M has been wanting this to be rescheduled to a neutral site game, maybe in the state of Texas, maybe closer out towards Arizona State. Not 100%. I've heard no rumblings of this online. All I'm saying is I've continuously seen a pattern. I believe USC and LSU had a similar situation where they couldn't agree to a home and home, so instead they played it at Allegiant Stadium for a kickoff there. I haven't heard any rumblings about this. I would just say I would not be surprised, Phil, if Texas A&M is like, let's move this to a neutral site game, but if not, we'll back out and we'll just pay the money.
I mean, here's the thing. All right, Parker, if it was we hadn't played other game, because yes, we have not played in at Texas A&M. We've not played in Kyle Field yet, but we will, right? That is in what, a month from now, less than a month from now. That's going to happen. There's no way it changes that quickly. That's still the same problem, right? If we go to Kyle Field, 105,000, 110,000, whatever it is, screaming fans, and regardless of whether we win or lose, if we go to Kyle Field and then Texas A&M says, yeah, we're not playing in Sun Devil Stadium, right? It would be one thing if, and again, could it be Cal Poly or UNLV pulling out? Yeah, it could. That seems extremely unlikely to me. I don't think either of those teams pull out. So if A&M is like, yeah, we're going to play a neutral site because we don't want to go to the Valley of the Sun, I'm like, guys, it'd be one thing if we scheduled a neutral party game, but we are going to Kyle Field in 3 weeks. And there is no good reason that I can think of outside of A&M, the SEC, it just means more being too big for their britches. No good reason for that home and home that has been on the schedule for a long time now. No good reason for that to change, not to be a neutral site, not to be anything other than them coming to the Mountain America Arena and having to deal with the Inferno.
And I'm not somebody who's in favor of the neutral site games, Phil. I've just noticed that they've been happening more and more often. And I don't know the economic side of it. I don't know if it's more of a fair bargain, if both sides end up making more money. I don't know if that's the case. But all I'm saying, Phil, is you lose so much of the atmosphere. You lose so much of what makes college football great.
It's just an easier game for A&M, right? That is what it is. SEC teams are petrified of losing non-con games. That is the long and short of it. That is what we are seeing, especially with their vaunted 10-game schedule in the SEC. And it is so difficult when they have to go play Mississippi State. Granted, we lost to Mississippi State. Sure, we screwed that up. But, it's like they are petrified. They won. And in fairness to them, the way the world works, you're just trying to stack 10-win seasons. But I can understand, why they want easier games. But again, if you want to do that, we should play 2 neutral site games. We should play, and we should do away with the home and home and make it 1 neutral site game. Right. If we play in Kyle Field, it is unconscionable that they do not play in Mountain American Arena. Just simple as, and who knows, this might be something else. We might be, catastrophizing something that's not happening. But I can guarantee you that, Akron's going to play. Cal Poly, I don't see any reason why they would pull out. Don't see any reason why UNLV would pull out. So likely going to be A&M, but at the very least, that's in the future. And we have a stud running back who has been improving hand and fist over everyone else in this running back room and is in the very, very real conversation to be in the 3 deep come this fall.
This episode of Locked On Sun Devils is brought to you by FanDuel. Think you know who's going deep today? Call your shot every day with free daily dingers. This is how it works. You get to make your free pick on who homers in their game, and if you're right, you get a profit boost on your next bet. Free pick every day, all season long in the MLB. It's another great way to stay engaged through the long MLB season. There are so many games. There's a game almost every day, depending on which team you're rooting for, or there's a game every day if you're just a Major League Baseball fan. And as a Sun Devil fan myself, it's always great to see what Spencer Torkelson's doing. So why not take a chance on him? He has over 19 dingers so far this season, so why not take a chance on him? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick. An official partner of the MLB.
All right, so we've talked about the way all the scrimmage went, and there's one name that it keeps coming up in practice reports, Parker. Keeps coming up in practice reports and now in the scrimmage reports as well, and we've not talked enough about him. Grayson Rigdon was like the seventh guy in the running back room that is stacked with David Abbott, Kyson Brown, Marquise Gillis, Carday Mack, Jason Brown Jr., Man Robinson. Like, that is a lot of really good guys. And he's the name that keeps popping up. He had an 80-yard touchdown. And I think he might both of them. I know he didn't have both of them. He had an 80-yard touchdown, another massive run in the scrimmage on Saturday. Like, where did this guy come from?
I'll tell you, I don't know where he necessarily came from, like, out of the blue, but he is a Texas guy from Columbus, Texas. But I'll tell you what separates him from every other running back that I've seen, at least in the couple of clips that I've seen, is acceleration and shiftiness. All these running backs are extremely athletic, but Rigdon, on some of the clips that I've seen, he is just so shifty and has some speed that really gets him past the lines of defense with an edge that I haven't quite seen from a couple of these running backs. We've been talking about seeing a separator in the running back room for this Arizona State team and how it's looked like a running back from committee approach. Well, if it comes to who you want to receive a pass in the backfield, Rigdon might be that guy. He really seems like he is an answer when it comes to once he receives the ball, he looks down the field, he dissects the defense, and he just finds the seam. And we saw that at this past scrimmage, Phil. He had an 80-yard touchdown reception where he broke a tackle, he found his seam, and it was all gas, no breaks from there. All you could do is look at the back of his cleats.
Yeah, and he's just a sophomore. Well, I guess we got to say second year now with the 5-year thing, but he's a young guy. As you said, breaks a tackle. He also had a 15-yard gain that he should have had a 15-yard gain, but called back for holding. And that was a problem with the offense. This scrimmage, we talked about the pass rush issues. Uncharacteristically large amount of penalties in this Saturday, which is something you never want to see. So again, he would have had more, but it's going to be interesting to see where he slots in, because you say, look, he seems to have the edge and separation. He seems like a great pass catching running back, maybe not kind of fulfilling the same pass blocking, run blocking roles that, say, Kyson Brown can do. Kyson Brown is apparently still getting a lot of these first team snaps because he's just really good at blocking, which I would hope that Grayson Rigdon would improve on, because Grayson Rigdon has been apparently Kyson Brown's like special mentee. He's been really taking him under the wings, showing him how to prep and do all that. But we have, to my eye, about 3 guys in this running back room that are superlative pass catchers. Like scat backs, maybe not pass catchers, but people that are, bouncing to the outside versus just running up the tackles, in Grayson Rigdon, and Jason Brown Jr., and in Man Robinson. And it's going to be really interesting, Parker, to see where these guys go and who gets the larger number of snaps, because, we can guarantee Kyson Brown's probably going to start. Marquise Gillis is probably going to be RB2 at this point. David Abbott for short yardage situations. But of these other guys that if you do need to kind of bounce it off the edge, that have that more superlative top end speed, given Rigdon's performance this last week of practice, I think he's starting to get himself into a point where he is rather realistically going to get appreciable snaps.
And Phil, even though we have talked about off air how much we can't wait to see the depth chart when it drops, just because there are going to be so many interesting like tidbits that we can dissect from once we get that depth chart. But as we've started to hear the coaches talked about it, especially Sean Aguano, the running back coach, and the running back by committee mantra being held over this running back room, how much do you really value a depth chart for this running back room when it is clear that anybody could take any snap, anybody could take any rep? Do you necessarily... once you get a depth chart, is you're like, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or are you more so like, okay, it's 1, then 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B? Is there any big information that you get from a depth chart at this point?
It's going to be interesting because we've already talked about in the spring about how this was likely going to be some more 2021 personnel, 2 running backs, 0-1 tight ends, which especially given the issue with the tight ends we've been having, that seems even more likely. So, you have that going on. Is Kyson Brown RB1? If so, well, if you're running 2021, you got 2 running backs in the field. Doesn't really matter. My bigger question, because I think that, as Sean Aguano has been saying, as we've been seeing, we have legitimately 7 guys that could see some level of snaps this year. My question is, what is a good rotation? Because the last couple of years, we've had our bell cow. We've had our guy that has north of 200 snaps, north of 200 touches, or whatever, a year in Relique Brown, Cam Scatterboot before him. Just this guy that's going to have all the snaps and all the touches, and it's really not going to be a lot going anywhere else. But in this situation where there's no clear dominant force in the running back room, and we have all these guys that can do different things, does it make sense to do a 5-man rotation? Is that too many backs to be productive? Are you running in that situation where, because you have to have chemistry too between the offensive line and the running backs and the running backs and the quarterback and all that. Is 5 running backs too many? Is 4? Is 3? What's fair? I saw someone pulled the numbers the other day, and you got to go back quite a bit if you have more than 2 or more running backs that have north of 200 carries a year, right? Do we need our 3rd and 4th back to get 15 carries, 20 carries, 30 carries? How many carries a game without messing with the offense? And those are difficult questions because we don't have, again, as we said, we don't have that bell cow, but we have a bunch of guys that can do a lot of work. And then the follow-up question to that, Parker, that I don't have an answer to, is that, we have these all-rounders. We have Kyson Brown, we have Cardi Mack, we have Marquise Gillis, and then we have specialists. And how much do you want to put these specialists in? Because that can tell the offense what's happening, or that can tell the defense what to expect, versus these generalists that have maybe not flashed as much in their specific roles, but they can do everything.
I don't really know if there is like a solid answer at this point, Phil, but all I know is that this running back room, they have a lot of questions to answer against Morgan State and against Texas A&M in the first 2 weeks of the season. But it's interesting because as we talk about this group having a lot of questions to answer, the running back room is one of the least I'm not concerned at all about this running back room. They have so many dogs. They have so many players that are just fighting way above their weight class at this point. And it's weird for me to have so many questions that I want answered from a group that I have so much confidence in. But we're at that point, Phil. I know we were conjecturing in the spring about, okay, who's going to separate themselves in the fall? And we made, well, what if somebody doesn't? I didn't think that was actually going to be the case, Phil. I didn't think at this point in the fall we would be rolling in, okay, it's a running back by committee. It looks like Kyson Brown and Gillis are the 1 and 2. But at this point, you could look at a game where there's 6 guys who get a touch. And that's just ridiculous.
It's going to be fun. And I'm with you. Given all the buzz about Kyson Brown in particular, about how, reporters were seeing shades of Scatterboot with how he was seeking contact. I'm like, great. We got our RB1. Yeah, we got some other guys that are gashing runs, but clearly Kyson Brown is separated. He's the incumbent. We're good. Which is just not what we're seeing. I mean, there's very little separation despite Kyson Brown taking the majority of the RB1 snaps. We're not seeing result separation just yet. So we're going to have to see. Of course, this is the final week of camp, not of camp, but of practice. And then we get into game prep. There's going to be, I believe there's going to be a game situations practice coming late this week, early next week. That is, no one's going to have any idea what's happening. And of course, 13 days from now, Morgan State is going to play. So we're going to get you all set up for that one. But we are done here today. Tomorrow, more football talk. Practices are getting started again for the next week. Very, very excited for the season to get started. But if you haven't already done so, make sure you go hit the YouTube thing, like the video, comment, let us know how many running backs should get a snap every game. I think that's probably a pretty good question. Let us know what you're thinking there. And of course, notification bell, set it to all. Make sure you don't miss out on a single video. But if you are on YouTube, we're going to send you over to the first ever National Locked On College Network. If you are on audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College Football because, college football week 0 is in 6 days from when this goes live. It is a College football's back. It is a great time to be a fan. And make sure to go check out Spencer McLaughlin does a great job covering out all the big news across the entire world of college football. And there's always something happen. Go listen to him, and we'll see you tomorrow.